everybody. It is Sean, and today we're running again. We almost having a little technical issue, but it's fine. And we're back on Push Talk today, and we have a very special guest with us today. We have Solicitor Brian Whiteside from Gwinnett County on. How are you doing today, Mr. Solicitor?
Doing well, thank you.
So let's just jump right into it. So you are the current solicitor of Gwinnett County. Tell us about when you got into that role, some of the things that you have done as the current solicitor. And let's just talk about where you brought Gwinnett up to this point.
Okay. Well, I was elected in 2018. I was the first African American to win a countywide race in Gwinnett County in 2018. I won the Solicitor General's seat. In that regard, basically that seat enforces ordinances such as simple things such as a dog bite, people not picking up trash, county ordinances, safety ordinances like food inspections, to misdemeanors such as family violence battery, reckless conduct, people shooting guns, pointing guns at another, DUIs, battery, simple battery, reckless driving, school bus violations, all those type of things, the quality of life situations. And in regard to that, I also take an oath to protect the Constitution and to protect the citizens of Gwinnett County. So up to that point, we basically were enforcing the law as we saw it come through. If there was a simple battery, we evaluated someone's record and see we put them in a diversion program, which basically would give them training, no type of incarceration, and put them in a position where they would have a criminal record and possibly get a job. So we were standard operating procedure at the beginning of 2018. What occurred, approximately about a month after that, we found out that Donald Trump had made a great deal of statements against the Muslim community throughout the United States and tried to do a Muslim ban. Throughout the United States, a deal of people tried to threaten and tried to intimidate the Muslim community in America. In New Zealand, there were a number of Muslim people killed. Immediately when that happened, I issued a notice to Gwinnett County that if any harm or any type of intimidation would occur to our Muslim community based upon their religion or race or any type of issue in regard to the differences in race, creed, or religion, we would take action immediately and recommend if that person was assaulted or which was trying to be intimidated, we would ask the judges to give them a harsh recommendation. And I asked for 12 months in custody if anyone was ever injured, or even if there was a simple assault where they were insulted with a hate crime. At that point, I don't believe we had the hate crime law. But what happened is that you saw that there were no issues that occurred in Gwinnett County. We actually became closer to our Muslim brothers and sisters, where they reached out, and we had the ambassador to New Zealand. He came and met with us. We had a press conference with him at that point. As we went on in the year, I think we went to 2019, marijuana basically was an issue. What they did was the legislatures basically legalized hemp, where you could have hemp or certain THC products for pain and other issues. So what happened when they basically did the legislature, the way they did it, you really couldn't tell the difference between hemp and marijuana, whereas most prosecutors kept prosecuting these cases. I looked at the actual issue that they had no type of legal test that could tell the difference between marijuana and hemp. The GBI had no test. What happens is usually if someone is arrested with marijuana, that marijuana is taken into evidence, it's sent to the GBI to test to see if it is an illegal drug, and that's the proof that you would use to prosecute a case. Knowing that there was no type of test that would show us any type of evidence, I made a decision not to prosecute marijuana in Gwinnett County for less than an ounce because it was unconstitutional. First, it's unfair to try to force a plea upon someone when you know you don't have that scientific test. Secondly, when you have 17, 18 states at that time that had marijuana legal, I thought it was unethical. And we take an oath also that wish to seek justice. You have to seek justice. That's what an oath is. And knowing that you take this oath, you can't in good faith try to prosecute somebody without any evidence. Now, what happened is across the country, there were other states that had the same problem, like Tennessee, Florida, and other states. They began to call us, and they wanted the actual legal language and constitutional language and the ethical language that I applied. And we were able to do that. We had Rockdale County call us. I think we worked with Cobb County, Fulton County. People called us. The prior administrations called us, and they wanted to seek, our knowledge. And we actually gave that. And if you look back, I think we had at least 4 to 5 counties in the metro area to stop prosecuting that. And police reached out to us also because it's a painstaking task to arrest somebody for a joint and then take their freedom. And basically, you could be patrolling somewhere else. So that's one of the key issues we did. We didn't prosecute marijuana. We haven't prosecuted marijuana in over 3 years. You would think about, maybe 400 to 500 people now don't have criminal records because of that. So during that point, what occurred in 2019, we found out that we had a Confederate monument in Gwinnett County. And due to the fact that we found a Confederate monument, there was some action taken to it by our citizens who were not happy with that. They basically defaced the federal monument, the Confederate monument, and basically explicitly said, move this monument. Now, the whole point about that, once you write on a monument, it's typically be calling defacing the monument. It could be criminal trespass, which would be some type of vandalism. So I made a decision, number one, based upon the fact not only did that occur that one time, but we started to get calls from people that were stating that basically they didn't want that monument in our community, that it didn't reflect the values of our community. And based upon that, number one is that there was action taken against the monument. I asked the commissioners in Gwinnett County to move the monument. Well, that first time we had Republican commissioners, and I told them specifically what the statute was, that in order to protect that monument from further harm, that basically we needed to move that monument. I requested they move that monument, and they didn't move the monument. So there was another defacing of the monument. So I declared the monument a public nuisance and stated that I didn't really want our citizens hurt in these type of protests, because now they would have police presence, citizen via the police. So what occurred, we had the election, I think 2020, and the commission actually changed. So we had Democratic commissioners and more thoughtful commissioners. And due to their action, because I think there was a third defacing of the monument, they followed my recommendation of the lawsuit to move it, and they moved the monument in regard to that period.
So I am still with you. We're just having some technical things we're playing around with over here. But so that was interesting. I love the fact that when you go back, you mentioned earlier how you guys have basically found a way to decriminalize marijuana in Gwinnett County, hypothetically, let's announce, because there's no testing for it. But you made a statement that I think is so important. You stated that it makes no sense as prosecutors to prosecute someone when you don't have evidence. Why is it that across the country, we're seeing so many prosecutors pursue cases when they know that there's not evidence to pursue them? Why is that just that we find with prosecutors, solicitors across the state of Georgia, but even now?
Well, a lot of them are still prosecuted. And see, my opinion would be that, number one, there right now at this period, there is a test that basically can tell the difference between hemp and marijuana. But the GBI, because they would be overloaded, they don't test less than an ounce of marijuana. So if you send a test into the GBI, let's say we do 400 cases a year, we send 400 cases in a year, and Fulton County might do 2,000 cases a year. You would overload the system. So at this point, they really don't do that. They don't really return a great deal of misdemeanor tests. So our approach is, number one, we don't basically even prosecute them now. Now, other people prosecute them, but as far as I know, a lot of them aren't getting a test back. So if I was the defense attorney, the first thing you would say is, let me see a test. And if there's no test, then there's no evidence. The judge has to dismiss that case. And so that's what's happening across the state of Georgia.
So, what's other interesting is that I know you have a candidate or someone running against you now who has gone out and publicly said that she would be tough on crime. And I was talking about it earlier today.
So that's the dumbest thing in the world to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of stupid and it's archaic. And you got to realize this person was trained by a Republican administration. They trained her to say these type of catchwords. That's a Republican type of statement. And she actually supposedly, we would say allegedly, but we have people that saw her. She went to a Republican breakfast and told the Republicans, I'm going to be tough on crime. And she's never said this to a Democrat. So now you're appealing to the Republicans. And supposedly she told the Republicans at their breakfast that she would like our race to be nonpartisan, not Democrat, not Republican, nonpartisan, where you were just neutral. So my opinion for her is just go ahead and run independent. Go ahead and get 100,000 signatures and do that, because you're supposed to be loyal to your party. But when you tell somebody you're going to be tough on crime, so you miss the whole atmosphere of what your job is actually about. You're more than a prosecutor. You take an oath to protect the public. So why wouldn't you reach out to young people, number one, and speak to them? I'm working with Patsy Austin Gatson. Education, let them see something different. When I see a young boy, I used to fly all the time. I was flying at 13. I was flying before I had a driving license. My dad was in the Air Force. Let people see, number one, that there are different options to crime and build their self-image. When I came up in the 70s, a black man was a king, a black woman was a queen. We were always told we are somebody. And what you have to do is embolden into these young people, number one, that you don't have to commit a crime. There's always a sunny day. Those little things that you're taking when you're a teenager, they actually harm you after the age of 16 because you're an adult and you can have a record. So we have to teach people a different way of how to basically self-esteem, high achievement, and do things different. You shouldn't be tough on crime. We need to be preventing crime. So when she says she's tough on crime, does that mean you're going to incarcerate people? Because the theme is to seek a different result, to do a diversion, to do some type of psychological counseling. Now, if people are violent 2 or 3 times, you're going to have to take action to that. But if you look at her character and her code of ethics, it's rather startling that the only time she ever said that was in front of a majority white Republican audience at their breakfast. And see, the point is not what she said there, it's what she didn't say. After 3 days, when they tried to take over the school board with nonpartisan, they moved Marlene Bosque to another county. They moved it to a predominantly Republican area, okay, in North Gwinnett from Lawrenceville. See, a true person who cared about the public and was attuned to them would admonish them. But she never admonished them for their behavior. So this is what we really need to look at, is that you had a chance to tell people that really they're unethical, they're immoral, you're trying to take away local control, but yet she basically co-signed the whole Republican platform. Our platform as Democrats, number one, is local control, caring about people, giving them opportunities. That's always been the Democratic creed. When there's key touch words that Newt Gingrich basically has. You can Google them, and what those Republican words like "I'm tough on crime," and tough on crime means I'm tough on black people. Yeah, that's what it means. That's what it means. Tough on crime means I'm tough on black people, because you don't say, wow, I'm great on education, and I'm ready to work with the community to help educate them. When you say tough on crime, those are code words for we're going to keep black people in check. And people who are listening to this pod, Newt Gingrich back in the 80s, he developed catchphrases, like baby killers, for Democrats. And you look at those phrases, each and every phrase she said. And when you look at a person who is basically co-signing the Republican line a week after they tried to wipe out the whole Gwinnett County commissioners. They're going after Therese Johnson. She's never defended them. As Solicitor General, she got a great deal of threats. I was called by her and other people that they were being threatened, and there was inadequate police protection. At the school board, they had like 6 or 7 officers there, had no metal detectors, yet they were getting threats. I spoke to the school police and their lawyers, and I asked that they have more protection. And if they couldn't have more protection, then I'm going to have to call the federal government, because it's supposed to be equal protection. Once someone tells you that they are under threat, you have notice, legal notice, yet they didn't take proper action. And at one school board meeting, it became chaos. That's when we had a news conference. And we basically stated that they needed more security there, they needed metal detectors there, and they had a duty to protect our school board. Now, that's majority Black. The same majority Black school board that they want to go nonpartisan, that my opponent did not admonish these people for. So if you want leadership, you can't appeal to the devil, and you can't negotiate with terrorists, because people keep saying, oh, hey, let's work with these people. You look at the result of what they're doing. They're taking every seat possible that they can and basically trying to weaken the school board. They're trying to weaken the election board. Recently, as of last Wednesday, I filed a federal lawsuit against Governor Kemp and Ratzenberger, and it basically states trying to take over these election boards or trying to take over the school boards is unconstitutional, because I don't know, many people don't know, but Georgia actually has a constitution, and the constitution says that local voters basically vote for local officials, and those local officials do the will of the people. So if they were going to do a nonpartisan election, there should be put on the ballot. That should be a referendum. And it hasn't been a referendum, because you have people who are in Newton County and other counties trying to decide Gwinnett County space. So we sort of moved around there, but the whole point, you have to look at, I think, her code of conduct. What code do you live by? That you would go into enemy territory and basically agree with everything that they say.
It's interesting, because we were talking earlier today in my office about when the term hard on crime comes into, when we hear people use that term, is usually, it dramatically impacts the American community. We look at passing the crime bill, passed like in 1994, it massively incarcerated African American people.
Right.
So we talked about where you have been, right? What's your plan for Gwinnett if you were to be reelected as solicitor?
Well, my plan for Gwinnett, number one, is trying to do some of the things we're going to do on Friday. Number one, we're going to Poplar Hill Baptist Church, and we're meeting with their pastors and their deacons and try to outreach to the young people and tell them that there's a better world than they think. You look at what's really occurring in our young people. They don't think they have the opportunities that we had. I grew up in the 1970s. I was able to walk onto a football team at Purdue, able to get a great education at Purdue, go to law school. I worked 2 jobs at law school, and I paid cash for it. And I think what's happening now is we have to show these young people that there is a life, even though it's hard. I was brought up that life is hard. You got to keep digging. You got to keep digging, and you're digging. There's a different type of atmosphere when you look at the media and things that are portrayed about being young and things that happen. It's that they don't really portray the fact that it's like when I played football. I carried the ball 30 times, only scored 2 touchdowns. 28 times I got dirty and got knocked down. So we need to tell children everything is not going to be a success. When I was a young person, my dad was in the Air Force. My goal was to be an astronaut. So I had high goals. You got to shoot high. So, but in order to be an astronaut, I had to know math. I had to know physics. I had to be able to read. I had to be able to be patient under pressure. But what happened is I became very, very good in football. So I lost that goal about being an astronaut. But because I prepared myself, I became a lawyer. So we need to go to our children and basically look at the fact that there's other things that we're doing. Like we're working with Hopewell Church. We're trying to get a program there where people can do vocational skills, where you can basically start off at $17 an hour, learning how to lay a floor, lay drywall. And I wish I knew how to lay drywall, but I took a couch down a step with it and put a big hole in my wall, so I got to get that done. But the whole point about that, learning vocational skills, learning as a plumber. Plumbers make more than lawyers. Learn how to do electrical wiring, especially with the big housing boom, which we don't think is going to go away, because you look at the population of Gwinnett County, we have 1 million people. And the United States is consistently growing. In the 1970s, you only had 200 million people in America. You now have 398 million people, and they have to be housed. So those things aren't going to go away. Car companies are coming here. So we're working with the community. The way you're going to avoid crime is for people to have good jobs and good pay and be included in society. You look at the years in past, and in Atlanta, people don't remember, you had at least 10 car manufacturing factories, GM, Buick. Traditionally, the most people who were in that were African-American males. They were union, they were making good money. They're probably back in the 90s making $70,000 to $80,000. The family was complete. They were able to live in affordable housing in nice areas, nice restaurants. And so what's happened with the way businesses have gotten together, it's almost a monopoly, is the fact that all our traditional type of jobs that people raise themselves up, the factory jobs and union jobs that provide actual retirement pay, these things are gone. So we have to, as Democrats, start petitioning, number one, that these new skills come in, that you can help build homes. You can actually not only have these skills, but you can be that contractor too. So to say that, we're trying to have a new revolution, like the New Deal, where basically we train you to have your own company. You don't have to be subservient to someone. You learn how to do that skill. If you're an electrician, well, why don't you then branch out and become the owner of your own company? That's along with education and finance. So that's what we're looking to do. We're always going to prosecute DUI. I'm hard on DUIs. I'm hard on people with guns. We have people who have guns and they're reckless. They shoot guns while they're drunk. They shoot them through hotel rooms, miss children. So make no mistake about it. We take appropriate action when things have to be done. But we don't use like, well, I'm hard on crime, because you don't really need to say that. That needs to be enacted. And when you have these serious offenses, like somebody shooting a gun, you're not really being hard on crime. You're just doing what's right. And the person that shoots a gun, they should really, and admit, we had people shoot guns through their own homes. And these 9mm, they go through the drywall and go through another house. People are sitting there eating breakfast and miss their kids. So my whole point, if you're that stupid with a gun, I think you earn, a couple of days in jail and maybe take your gun away. And you got a lot of people buying these Glocks, and they drop the magazine. And then the thing about it, they think they have a magazine disconnect. They don't. The gun still fires. So another thing we're doing in the future, we're going to fight Governor Kemp on this no gun permit law, because that's unconstitutional also. Because just think about it, like in Gwinnett County, you have to have emissions. Now you might go to another county, they don't. See, that's local control. And it's the same thing with a gun permit. You can't make a law telling local officials that we cannot ask people to have gun permits when we have almost 70 to 80 cases of reckless gunfire and people shooting. So how you approach that would be that it's a health problem. That it's a health problem, and this is a public nuisance problem. And constitutionally, they can't stop you from having gun permits in Gwinnett County. So which means when you come from 85, down 85, you better have a gun permit, or our police can stop you. It's going to have repercussions all throughout the state. So, and I look at also, we filed that law. Also, most likely, I'm going to be filing a motion about the governor saying that a parent should make the final decision on somebody having a mask. See, that's not right. And the whole point about it is that prior to this, Keisha Lance Bottom and Kemp had an argument about the same issue, where he tried to tell her that she could not have masks in Atlanta. and he had to he sued her, and she made him dismiss that case because the Georgia Constitution and case law says that local officials can make decisions based upon health matters. So I try to tell people, when you see these people get up, especially the Republicans, and they say things like, oh, well, you know, when they go out and vote in May, if they pass some water or some snacks, that's going to be an offense. Now, they passed that bill too. So I basically filed a lawsuit on that and told them that I'm not going to enforce that. Now, see, that would make me obey an unlawful command. That would be like what happened to Floyd, Mr. Floyd, when the police officer was stepping on his neck and nobody pushed him off. You just stay there, and they tell you, you will enforce this, Mr. Whiteside. If somebody is drinking water out there and a policeman arrests them, you're going to prosecute him. No. So I told him I'm not going to do that because, see, first, every crime has to have a harm. Handing somebody water doesn't harm them. And second of all, you have to have a criminal intent. And if you read that law, it says that a person can be put in jail for up to 12 months, $1,000 fine by simply giving somebody some potato chips and a snack. So I believe that is not going to be enforced because I sent that to the Attorney General and to Ratzenberger. The lawsuit is going to Governor Kemp and their attorneys. And I don't think that's going to be enforced because throughout the state, and we notified people of our other solicitors of our policy because there's no criminal intent in regard to that. So those are some of the things we're looking at in the future. Number one, taking on the governor's actions that could basically infect the whole state of Georgia because COVID is not over. And he tells parents that they can opt out with a mask. I'm simply going to file a motion that says that local health professionals, which means like your health department, they make those decisions based upon the numbers or the infectious rate in the community.
Mr. Whiteside, it has been, and you know, it's been a pleasure having you on today.
Thank you.
I want to thank you again for kind of just telling everybody about where you've been, what you're doing, and what you're planning on doing. I love your philosophy. I love what you guys stand for. I love what you have personally done to move some of these issues. I want to just let everybody know, if you are looking at our screen right now, we have on the screen where you can go and find out more information about Mr. Whiteside by going to www.reelectbrianwhiteside.com. Find out about his platform, what he stands for, and you can make a donation too if you feel the need to. Mr. Whiteside, thank you for coming on today. Any last words? We have one more minute.
Yeah, just we mentioned it. No, May 24th is the election. Get out there and vote. And we have to win because what they have is they have my opponent. She worked for a Republican for all these years. So they're testing the water, see if they can come back. And if you really look at her accomplishments, they're zero. And I think we're the best qualified. I'm always fighting for our citizens. I care about our citizens. I protected the school board. I protected the majority of people from illegal arrest on marijuana. And I'm fighting the fact that we can't have people walking around with guns in Gwinnett County. And we know what people are going to be walking around with them open. Yeah. Think about that. Who does he want to have these guns out here? And when you go to restaurants, look who you see with these guns and how they try to intimidate people. But we don't want that to happen in Gwinnett. And this governor is appealing to his base, and that base is Republican. And we don't want people walking around in our county with open guns trying to intimidate people. So thank you very much.
And I encourage everybody, as always, get out and vote on May 24th. Your local election is probably one of the most important elections. Well, Mr. Whiteside, thank you again for coming on today.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Absolutely. And we'll be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock for PushTalk podcast. You guys have a blessed day and stay blessed.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.